Back home, I'm always referred to as one of the boys. It's not that I don't have any female friends, it's just that I always find myself in the company of guys more often than I do girls, which is fine. They're like the brothers that I never had. So when I moved to college, I came expecting to find a male friend group that I would fit in with, and eventually they would come to accept the fact that yes, I am a girl, but yes, I am just as much fun and as easygoing as they are. But what I found here was a whole lot different and definitely not what I expected. I found a female friend group that I find myself spending most of my time with. And although it's different and a big change, I like it. I feel like it makes for an equal balance. So, like I said, transitioning from an all boy friend group to an all girl friend group was a big adjustment. But after taking a communications class last school year and learning about and studying and being fascinated by the different ways that males and females communicate, I jumped at the opportunity to be able to record and then report and compare my own studies with other research. To understand the difference between male and female communication, you must first take into account how each gender displays body language, take into account which gender talks more, and understand which gender is the best listener. One thing that I've observed between male and female communication is the way each gender communicates non-verbally. I've been around the boys so long that I know exactly what they mean and what they're trying to say when they act a certain way. I only noticed how different it was for girls when I started hanging out with the girls here. Nodding is a key nonverbal cue, and oddly enough, it has two totally different meanings for the men and women. When a male nods, he's doing it more as like agreeing with you. When women do it, they're nodding to let you know, like, yes, I'm listening. Another key nonverbal cue is eye contact. I was taught from a very young age that eye contact is so important to have an effective and efficient conversation with somebody. Men have this ability to look elsewhere and engage fully in something else, all the while listen, process, and understand everything that you just said to them. Not to say that females can't do the same thing, it's just that females understand that it's more polite when you're making eye contact with someone while they're talking. I'm sure we're all familiar with the stereotype that women talk more than men. Studies are starting to show that this is actually incorrect, and I can't help but agree. The amount of talking done between men and women is actually pretty equal. It just totally depends on the amount of people around and the topic. For example, women are better at one-on-one conversations or like in a small group of like 3 or whatever. But men talk better when it gets to be like 5 or more people. I've also noticed that women like to gossip more and men like to talk more about the objects and the scenery that's around them. There's also a stereotype that women are better listeners than men, but research and my observations say otherwise. I've come to find that both genders are equally good listeners, it just depends on the subject. Women tend to be very emotional creatures, so when they're presented with a story about a situation or about a person, they will listen better than a man will. For example, say I tell one of my girlfriends here that my boyfriend cheated on me. I will get so much more sympathy and advice from a girl than I would have a guy. It's not that guys don't care, they're just wired differently. Just like if you present a man with information relevant to the task at hand, they'll listen a whole lot better than a girl. For example, the boys and I are very guilty of racing back home wherever we go. When I'm a passenger, I tend to be the boss and tell the driver what to do and where to go, and he always listens to me. If it were a female in that situation, she wouldn't. Males and females listen equally well, it just depends completely on the subject and the individual. In order to understand the different ways that males and females communicate, you must first take into account the way each gender displays body language, take into account that the most talkative gender may vary, and understand that the better listener may vary. Neither gender is more dominant in the communication area. They both just have very different ways of expressing themselves. That's why I totally understand why my girls want to talk boys and other girls, and my boys just want to chill and talk about anything but. Of course, there are a whole lot more communication differences than what I spoke about, but hopefully by listening to me you can understand a little bit more about the basic differences between the way males and females communicate. Thank you.